Well, hello there and welcome to this video. I have a new project. Let me bring you up to speed. I just grabbed this massive dark form forgetii off of Facebook Marketplace and instantly noticed that it had scale, which is my least favorite pest. I actually dealt with scale over the winter. It was super hard to get rid of, but no worries because I intended to make this plant a propagation project anyways. The only extra step that the scale adds is isolation, but I'm gonna go ahead and get started on removing all of these leaves, and then we are gonna get to work propping and chopping this beautiful anthurium. It's a forgetii graveyard. Here is a better look at what we have been blessed with. Super mature, double-headed anthurium dark form. So much dry stuff to pick off and peel off, which if you know me, I love doing that. It's like the plant version of pimple popping. And I can already see that we've got, look at this beautiful growth point right here that we're gonna utilize. I know that this plant is chock full of growth points. Here's another one right there. And so this is gonna be the perfect prop and chop summer project. And I'm excited to share the process with you because I've not really ever done and chopped up something this mature. So it'll be a lot of fun. We are gonna take this inside now. I usually film out on the screened-in porch so that you can see all my pretty plants in the background. But since we're isolating this, we're gonna be tackling it at the dinner table. Also, while we're here outside in open air, let's give it a good drenching of my Bonide liquid systemic, which killed the scale I had over winter. And let that dry out before I take it to any next step. So I finally just removed these stems from the base of the plant that was in the pot. I'm gonna deal with the butt cut sections separately a little bit later in the video, but now we are ready to more or less dissect these huge, woody, crispy chunks. I'm really actually excited about this. We're just gonna put on some music. We're just gonna get to peeling. And once we've peeled all of this dead and dry matter off, we'll be able to take a look at our growth points and chop it up. Has been removed and we are left with some really beautiful chunks. I kind of want to count the growth points I can see in total. So we'll start with the tiny guy. I'm going to try to find the lowest one down. It's going to be a little hard because this area is very woody. but there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 growth points on the tiny piece, as well as the top section, which has a cataphil. And let's count what's on this monster here. Again, starting at the bottom, although it is the woodiest, hardest to see. This is a growth point here. I'm just gonna remove a little bit of the brown on top, and yep, that is still viable, so we'll start there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and those are all unactive. Now let's continue counting. The rest of them are all active. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and you can count this one as 20 if you want. This one is right here at the base of the cataphil for the new leaf, and we already have something beginning to emerge out of this cataphil. So in total, we've got 30 growth points divided up among these 2 stems. So now it's time to cut them up. The first decision I'm gonna make when dealing with these chunks is just to completely remove the cataphil on both sections. This cataphil here was the very top of the plant. It is where the most mature growth will come from. However, I've disconnected these from the entire root system, and I would rather the plant focus its energy on the rest of these growth points rather than trying to push something out of these cataphils. So we're just going to remove the cataphils so that we're not dealing with any top cuts at all. We'll only be dealing with midsections. So because these are all these growth points so close together, I don't think I'm going to opt for using any sort of shear today. When you're using shears and you've got a blade coming in from top and bottom, you also risk cutting something unintentionally or crushing your stem. So I'm actually going to grab a cutting board from the kitchen, and I have a little scalpel that's already been cleaned and prepared for this project. All right, let's start with our smaller piece. At this point, we're really showing no mercy to the plant. We can divide this as many times as we want and really just hope for the best, because that's the entire point of this propagation project. I don't know if I'm gonna try to go for single node cuttings. I think down here on the lower portion of the stem, where the growth points are quite a bit older, I'll make cuts that give me a few growth points each. It's not quite as sharp as I hoped it would be. So here's our first section, and I might switch to the kitchen knife just because it is a little bit more reliable here. We will do a single node section here. onto the shears because I've got more space in between the nodes, but also because the higher up on the stem I'm going, the harder it's been to cut with a knife. This cut here, I think I'm gonna leave it with 2 growth points. And our top cut, we have 1, 2 great growth points in addition to this tiny one that was at the base of the caterpillar. So from our big piece, we've got 18 pieces, 9 pieces here. That brings us to a total of 28 pieces of forgetti. And now we want to set it up for success. So let me go get some moss and a tray. So here is the tray that I have prepared with moss. Everything is nice and moist. Of course, because all of these cuttings have no roots, the moss is not really for root growth, for nutrient uptake, for any of that. Any growth that comes from these growth points is going to be from energy that is stored within the plant. So all that this moss is going to do is raise humidity because I've got a lid that fits right over this tray. Now you don't have to use a tray, you can use individual cups. I was just all out of my tiny little cups. So we're gonna go ahead now and we are gonna nestle each cutting into the moss just gently. We're not burying anything. I just want to nestle them just so that they don't roll around in here. And I'm going to try to be positioning them so that the growth points are facing up. This is more so that I can monitor their development and also so that they can get the most light. All right, our project is done for the day. Now it is a waiting game. I would love it if all of these activated and gave me brand new plants, but a few of them probably won't make it. There's this guy in particular, he's got a little bit of damage, I think, to the growth point. We're still gonna keep him. We're still gonna see how he does. And then there was another one that I cut. This guy right here, we've got, you know, a beautiful growth point there, but when I cut it, I kind of cut so that we don't even have stem on all sides. Not really sure about how that one's gonna do, but we've got 27 chances for a new plant, and I think I would be happy if half of these activated and gave me leaves. All we do now is put a lid on top to boost the humidity. If I can find this little piece, I will add it in there. We're gonna set it under some bright light and just allow nature to take its course. Right now I'm growing semi-outdoors on a screened-in porch, and so it's nice and warm out there. Humidity ambient is really high at like 70 or 80%. So it's the perfect environment for these guys to do well. All they need is a little bit of time to recover from the shock of everything that's happened to them today. So we will check back in. So if you would like to see how my tray of dark form forgetti do, make sure to subscribe to my channel. We're gonna give them as much time as they need, but I absolutely promise to give updates as soon as there's anything worth sharing. So I almost forgot about the butt cuts, and they were out on the back porch for a couple of hours. But finally I had time to circle back, and I've never dealt with pon before. It was actually a fun learning experience. The roots were super healthy. There were so many of them. And the pon was actually pretty easy to remove. It was just really tedious. It took a very long time, but eventually I was able to separate the butts from the 2 individual plants that were growing in that pot, and some of the growth points were even already active. And then the larger one that you see on the right, I was able to separate into 2 sections. So I had like 2 butt cuts and a mid cut. And since all of these cuttings were rooted, I just went ahead and sold them. So you won't be seeing any updates on these specifically. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that today's video was helpful for you. If you're working on a fun chop and prop project, or if you're just not sure what to do with your large and mature anthurium, I hope that this helped you gain a little bit of confidence. When you have something that's that mature, you're gonna have so many chances that you'll get new, happy little baby growth. I'd highly encourage you to do it. I think that this is a great approach for mature anthurium that, you know, perhaps the petiole length is just getting too long. Maybe the plant itself is getting too large for your space. Maybe you've had a pest problem. For whatever number of reasons, I would highly recommend taking this approach. It's been a lot of fun today, super satisfying, and a great learning experience. You can always try this with something cheaper, like an anthurium crystallinum or a magnificum, something where you're not gonna feel like you'd lose too much money if it didn't go well. I don't think I mentioned, but I paid $50 for the mother plant. And so to me, that was worth the investment. I cannot explain how excited I am to see how these things do. So make sure that you subscribe. I'll keep you updated, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.